different large denominators. For different large denominators, we're going to use prime factorization. And any changes to the bottom number must be reciprocated to the top number. And then to build up to the least common denominator, we multiply by any missing factors. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. Example 1. A frame is 5 and 16 inches thick with a cross member of 9 and 32 inches thick. What is the total thickness of the two pieces? So what we need to do is take 16 and 32 and do the prime factorization for each. So 16 can be broken down into 2 and 8, and then 2 and 4, and then 4 can be broken down into 2 and 2. Now 9 and 32, so we'll break down the 32. 32 becomes 2 and 16, then 2 and 8, 2 and 4, and then 2 and 2. So we can see that 16 and 32 are pretty similar, except 32 is multiplied by 2 5 times together, and then 16 is there's only 4. So what we do is we take each unique factor, which is 2, and we're going to raise it to the highest exponent between the two numbers, and it's to the 5th. So what we can do then is 5 and 16ths, which is really 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, plus 9 over, and then it's 5 2's. So what we need to do then is we need to get the least common denominator, which is 2 to the 5th, which is equal to 32, and that would be our least common denominator. So this first number, we need to multiply it by any missing factors, which is just a 2. And so whatever we do to the bottom to get to the same common denominator, we need to do to the top as well. So we'll multiply 2 over 2 to the first term, and we're going to keep this second term as is. So this then becomes 5. We're going to multiply it by the 2, which gets us to 10. And now we have 5 2's on the bottom, so that equals to 32. And then we're going to plus 9 over 32, which we get, when we add together, we get 19 over 32 inches. And that would be our solution to this problem. So let's go ahead and look at another example. Example 2. The toe-in occurs when the front wheels are closer than at the rear. This causes a lot of tear on the car. Jack takes the toe-in readings. So the toe-in reading is 3 and 32 on one front wheel and 3 and 16 on the other. What is the total toe-in? So kind of like our last example, we have 16 and 32 for our different denominators. And so like before, we can break it down, and we remember that 32 can be rewritten as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and then 16 is just 4 2's multiplied together. So this means that when we have 3 over 32, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and then we're going to then add 3 over 16, which is just 4 2's multiplied. Now what we need to do then, before we can add these together, is get a common denominator, which will be 32. And the only way we can do that is if we multiply the top and the bottom by 2 on the second term here. Now we have a common denominator of 32 for the second term, and then we just need to multiply this 3 and the 2 together, and then we can look to add. So we have 3, and we'll just put 32 plus, now we have 3 times 2, which is equal to 6, That's over 2, 32. Now we can add 3 plus 6, which is equal to 9, and then we keep our common denominator of 32. This would be our final solution to this problem. So let's go ahead and look at another example. So now we have a tow-in reading of 3 28 on one front wheel and 5 18 on the other. What is the total tow-in? So we're going to add these two numbers together, and the way we do this is we are going to do the prime factorization of each number of our denominators. So we have 28, which can become 2 and 14, and then 14 can become 2 and 7. And those are the prime numbers of 28. Now 18 can be broken down into 2 and 9, and 9 can go into 3 and 3. So we see that we have 3 different unique numbers. And so to find the least common denominator, we are going to have to multiply 2 times 3 times 7. And then we need to account for the exponents for how many we need to do. So in this first number, we have 2 2's. And then we just have this 1 2 here. So we only need to go 2 raised to the second power. Now, for the 3, we have 2 3's here, and no 3's in the first number. So we need to multiply 2 3's together, so we'll just raise it to the exponent of the second power. And then lastly, we just have 1 7, so we'll keep as is. So when we multiply all of this out, which is 2 times 2, which that's equal to 4, times 3, which is 12, times another 3 is 36, and then we need to multiply it by 7. So together, these are equal to 36, and then we need to account for this, so times 7. So let's go right here. 6 times 7 is 42, carry the 4. 3 times 7 is 21 plus 4, which is 25. So this is equal to 252. So now we can go ahead and then write this out. So now we have 3 over 28, which can be broken down to 2 times 7, plus, now we have 5 over 18, which is 2 times 3 times 3. Now, what we need to do then is multiply each term by its missing factors of the least common denominator. So this first number is missing the 2 3's. So what we would do then is multiply it by 3 over 3 on top and bottom. And the second term, we're going to multiply it by a 2 and a 7, as we're missing one of the 2's and we're missing the 7. So now we can go ahead and then multiply these top numbers together, and then we can go ahead and start adding. So this becomes 3 times 3, which is 9, times 3, which is 27. So we have 27 over 252 plus, so we have 252 on the bottom. We multiply all this together. So now we have 5 times 2, which is 10, times 7, which is 70. So now we have our addition problem that we can now add because we have a common denominator of 252. So when we add 27 plus 70, we get 97. And then we would put that over 252. And this would be our final solution to this problem. So let's go ahead and do one last example. Example 4. Sophia has 10 twelfths left of her trip. If she travels 9 and 26 the following day, how much of her trip does she have left? So for this, we're going to have a subtraction problem. And we're going to take this number and subtract it by this number. So here we have 10 over 12 minus 9 over 26. So our first step is to take the prime factorization of both the 12 and the 26. So 12 can be broken down into 2 and 6, and then 6 into 2 and 3. Now 26 can be broken down into 2 and 13. So our least common denominator is taking each unit factor and multiplying it by the highest exponent, or how many times it's repeated in each term. So in the 12, we have 2 2's. So we'll multiply by 2 times 2. Then we also have a 3 and a 13. So this gets us to our least common denominator. So when we multiply, we have 2 times 2, which is 4, times 3, which is 12. And then we have 12 times 13. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. 0 is a placeholder. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. And we're going to add, and we get 156. So that's our least common denominator. So when we now rewrite this, let's rewrite into our factors. And so we have 2 times 2 times 3 minus 9 over 26, which is 2 and 13. So for this first term, what are we missing? We're just missing that 13. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 13. Then the second term, we have 2 and 13. So we're just missing this 2 and this 3. Now let's go ahead and multiply. So we have 10 times 13, and then we have 9 times this 2 and 3. So 10 times 13 is 130, which is over 156, minus, now 9, 2 times 3 is 6, so 9 times 6 is 54, which is also over 156. So the next thing would be to do is to subtract 130 minus 54. So we keep our same common denominator. Let's go ahead and do it right here. Subtract. We need to borrow, so we have a 2. So now we have a 10 times minus 4, which is 6. And then we'll borrow from the 100. Now we have 12 minus 5, which is 7. So now we have 76 over 156, which is now in its reduced form, as we can divide by 2 on both the top and the bottom. So 76 divided by 2. So as this can be divided, as they're both even, let's divide by 2. So we get 76 divided by 2. 2 can go to 7 3 times. Then we carry down the 6. Now 2 can go into 16 8 times. Now 156. 2 can go to 15 7 times. Then we got 14. 15 minus 14 is 1. Carry the 6. Then we get 8. So 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract, we get 0. So 76 over 156 can then become 38 over 78. Also still a even number, so let's go ahead and divide further. So we have 38 divided by 2. 2 can go to 3 one time. We have 18, so now it's 2 can go to 18 9 times. So then we have 78. Divide by 2. 2 can go into 7 3 times. Subtract, we get 1. Bring down the 8. 2 can go to 18 9 times. So this then becomes 19 over 39, as we took out 2 common factors of 2. And this would be our final solution to this problem.